Hey everyone, thanks for coming back. As I just wanted to tonight just kind of give a brief overview on assessing multilingual children as SLPs. We have a lot of kiddos that are bilingual, multilingual, and it's a wonderful thing. Always encourage your students or your clients to continue both languages or multi-languages, whatever languages they're learning, that they're being exposed to at home. In school, it's usually English here, but it's just a wonderful thing. So encourage them to do that. Encourage the parents to keep talking to them in their native language, please. A lot of parents feel like they're going to confuse their kids by speaking to them in their native language or their first language when they are going to school and learning English. And it's just it's the total opposite. They should just keep talking to them in their first language, to teach them the right grammar, to teach them right vocab. I still have to do a language transfer video, but basically what they're learning in that language and in school, as they're learning, it's going to transfer and they can become bilingual, fully bilingual and multilingual. So what I wanted to talk about, as clinicians, it can be pretty tricky to make sure that we get an accurate assessment, accurate diagnosis. So basically what I want to talk about is how do we know what's the difference between, or if we're seeing a language difference or a language disorder with our multilingual children. And some people can speak two languages. Some speech pathologists are bilingual, some are monolingual, some are multilingual. And so if you get a kiddo I'm going to show a presentation because that's how I keep things organized in my mind and in my speech. But if you have a kiddo that is bilingual or multilingual and you don't speak their first language, ask a colleague. If you know they speak their language, ask them to help you, ask them to assess the child. Maybe assess and treat the child, or at the very least, if they can assess the child in the native language or the first language, and then or both languages, but at least the first language, and then you could do the English or second language, or they should be assessed in both languages to make sure that we know if there's a difference or a diagnosis or disorder. Okay, so let me share and then of course, if you don't have a colleague that speaks their native language, then we need to find an interpreter. So let me just share this presentation that I made. Again, it's just to keep myself organized. And at the end, I have some references. I think I mentioned before, I continue to take a lot of courses on assessing and treating multilingual children, and then just other areas in speech and language. So here is just what I basically said. Multilingual children, are we looking at a speech and language difference, or is it a speech and language disorder? So again, this is just a brief overview, and I've learned this from other speech pathologists, other people in courses and everything. So I'm not taking credit for the information, but I just wanted to share it with you guys. So first, like I said before, please, we must test the child in their native language, their first language, and then also in their second, which again, here is usually English. So assess in both languages. If you're, again, I said this already, sorry. So if your colleague speaks the native language, then see if they can evaluate, if they can, or if you don't know anyone, get a translator for the assessment. And one of my most recent experiences is I have sort of a new client, and she was evaluated by a speech pathologist in her school, and she was evaluated in English only, and her first language is Spanish, and her mom and dad only speak Spanish at home. And so she was evaluated only in English, and I later found out that she does have, there is significant articulation phonological delays disorder, and maybe some expressive language, but her receptive language skills, are good, are intact in Spanish. So basically, they assessed her in English, and they determined that her receptive language skills were also delayed. But when I assessed her receptive language skills in Spanish. She got standard scores of 95 and other standard scores, and then that were solid, like within the average range for her age. And also the informal assessment, she demonstrated that she did not have any delays or disorder in receptive language skills. So just a recent example that I experienced of why we cannot just test these kiddos in English. We don't want to give them a label of a delay or disorder when it's not really there. And then the next one, so I just said that test in both languages. And then how are their skills in both languages? How are their speech and language in their first language? And how are their speech and language skills in the second language? Ask the parents, I mean, do they mimic each other? Or basically we're gonna wanna know, is there a delay or disorder in their first language, or are they just, or their first language is, there's no delay in disorder. They are fluent and there's no issues there, and they're just learning language. Learning English language learners. So ask their parents if they're able to understand them. That is one of the first things you should really do. See if they can understand their speech and language. And if they can't understand it 100%, then find out, okay, well, how much can you understand? So we know that familiar listeners at certain ages, moms and dads are familiar listeners, are supposed to understand a certain percentage of a kiddo's language. And then by 4, it should be, well, anyway, should be 100%, but approximately. But and then unfamiliar listeners may understand less, but there's still a certain percentage, depending on the age, that that they should also be able to understand. So mom, dad, immediate family, can you understand their speech and language skills? And then this came from something we can use is called the intelligibility in context scale. You can have parents answer questions, and it's in a bunch of languages. I got this information from some class that I took, and I want to pull it up for you. Hold on, I'm trying to find out where it is. Charles Sturt University. You guys should be able to see that. Intelligibility and context scale. So it has so many, it's translated into so many languages, languages A through J. Look at all those languages that you can access and ask the parents how much they understand. It's a series of questions. And there's languages K through Z, so many. So I'm going to go down to the Spanish and just ask some questions about, where is the Spanish? It says Spanish plus English. I think it starts with the Spanish and then it goes down to the English. But oh no, it's just Spanish. But anyway, it's just a scale of intelligibility and context. So it's asking for the name of the child, the date of birth, all of that. How much can you understand your son or daughter? Oh, there's the English down there. I didn't even see that. How much, do immediate family members understand your child? It keeps going down. Child's friends, acquaintances, strangers, and then you can score it up and see, use that as one of your assessment tools. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to pull down so it's just a nice resource. Again, I got that from a course that I took. That's at the end of my slides, references. Let me pull my little thing back up. There we go. Okay, so lots of resources out there. We just have to know where to access them. So dynamic assessment is also really important, very helpful. How do they learn? Sorry, I see a typo there. How does the child learn, and can they learn with assistance? Can they learn with assistance? Children who have a difficult time learning are usually the kiddos that we need to help, but also, dynamic assessment is, assessing, treating, assessing. So do they make progress from your pretest to your post, in between, your pretest and post-test? Do they make progress when you retest them? So we want to check on that. And these are my references, but I think I need to go back because Hold on a second. I totally missed something. There we go. That was in the wrong order. So let me fix that. Okay. So sorry about that. So then another layer to the onion is dialects. So different, one language can have different dialects, which means vocabulary can be different and sounds can be produced differently. So for example, sorry, I'm using Spanish just because I can speak Spanish, but so some consonants are produced differently in Spanish based on dialect or region, country that you're from. Even sometimes in the same country, the regions in the countries, the dialects are different. So this is just an example. Dos is the word for two, number two. And it can be produced different ways. So dos with a clear S at the end, do with almost like an H, or do, which it sounds to us probably like the sound is totally dropped. But in that dialect of Spanish, that is totally acceptable, totally normal, totally that is how it's produced. So we can't look at that if someone speaks that dialect and then say, oh, even if we know that the word dos is the word for two, we can't say, oh, she said, he or she said do, that they dropped the S, it's a final consonant deletion, phonological process. No, it's actually acceptable in that dialect and totally normal to say it that way. So that would be a language difference. And then another thing is CH in Spanish sometimes is pronounced close to the English CH. And then in other dialects, it may have more of like an SH, what we would hear as an SH quality. And both are acceptable depending on the dialect. It's not a disorder, it's a difference. So there's so much to know. Again, it's a wonderful thing, and sometimes it's tricky as clinicians. So this was going to be my wrap up, and then I was supposed to do references, but I can go back to references. So basically, assess in both languages, ask family members if they can understand their child and how much. Respect the different dialects of the language. So try to know them and know, like what is acceptable so that it's a difference and not a disorder or a delay. Dynamic assessments are great. The other things I added were the narrative skills assessments. I've spoken about in another video, are excellent in bilingual evaluations or multilingual evaluations. And then there are some bilingual standardized assessments also available. So I was supposed to do my references, but let me just click up here and go back to that. So again, I've been taking a bunch of classes, but these are just a couple that I got some of the information in the little slide presentation that I made for you. So now let me totally come out of the share and just say that, again, this is just a super brief overview, but just important things for us to know. And so I just wanted to share, and I will continue sharing more things that I learned, and I hope that it helps. Guys, questions, comments, just let me know. And if you are watching me on YouTube, please subscribe. If you like the video, like it. If you're watching on TikTok, please follow. And again, let me know what you think. Let me know what I can help, and let me know how you can help me. I'm always learning, so I know people out there have information to tell me that I don't know about. So thank you so much, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.